Today we're making my sourdough frosted lemon cookies. They are so delicious and so easy to make. Their cake-like texture is very similar to a Lofthouse cookie. Let's go make them. You can find my full written recipe linked down in the description below. Just click that link. It'll take you over to my blog where we can print and save. But let's get started making these cookies. To get started, you'll need a large mixing bowl and a stand mixer or a hand mixer. Then we're gonna add in 4 tablespoons of softened stick butter. I like to use salted, but you could also use unsalted. It just needs to be softened so we can cream it together. Also, if you're using a grass-fed butter like I do, you can use a small saucepan and warm it just a little bit to soften the butter. A grass-fed butter just does not soften as well as a regular butter, so that's just a little tip if you're having some problems. I recommend getting your butter and your egg out, so you'll need half of a cup of butter altogether and 1 large egg. Get them out an hour before you start this recipe so they can come to room temperature for the cookies. So once we have our 4 tablespoons of butter in here, we're gonna add in half of a cup of granulated cane sugar. So this is just pure cane sugar. It's a much more wholesome option than a refined white sugar. And then we're just gonna grab our mixer and we're gonna beat this on a low to medium speed for about 1 minute until it's light and fluffy. When we're done, it will look just like this, and then we're gonna add in 1 large egg. This should be room temperature. And then we're just gonna mix this on a low speed until it's combined. Make sure you're scraping down the sides of your bowls as well. Now once your egg is completely combined, we're gonna add in 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. I like to use fresh, as well as 2 tablespoons of freshly grated lemon zest. I like to use a microplane to do this. It just makes it so much easier. And then we're gonna add in 1/4 of a cup of sour cream. This makes these cookies so light and fluffy. They're my secret ingredient. Next, we'll add in 1/4 of a cup of sourdough discard, aka unfed starter. You could also use fed starter if that's all you have. As you can see, mine's a little bit thicker, so if yours is more runny, your batter can be a little bit runnier. Next, we'll add 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder, 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda, 3/4 of a teaspoon of sea salt, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I like to use pure vanilla extract. And finally, 1/2 of a tablespoon of cornstarch. You could also use arrowroot powder. That works just as good. And I like to get organic if I can. Now we're just gonna mix this on a low to medium speed until everything's combined. Now once we have all of our ingredients mixed together, we're gonna add in 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. I like to add in a little bit at a time so we don't have a giant flour dust cloud. We're gonna start at a low speed, and then as we add more, we can turn up the speed to a medium or a high. Now as you mix all this together, you wanna make sure you scrape down the sides of your bowl with the beaters. And as you can see, the dough is getting very thick and sticky. That's exactly what we want. Now once it's combined, we can take out our beaters. Now once you're done mixing in your flour, the dough is very, very sticky. That's exactly what you're looking for. If it's like runny and it's not this consistency, that just means your sourdough starter was a little more hydrated than mine. Not a problem to add a little more flour, but I do want to say, do not add flour to this if your dough looks like this and is a dough. It's supposed to be sticky. As we chill it in this next step, it will firm up and be easy to roll out. So now we're gonna pop an airtight lid on this, or you can put saran wrap over the top and chill it in the fridge for 1 hour, or pop it in the freezer for 30 minutes. Do not skip this step. This is essential for making this sticky cookie dough easy to roll out. Now if you would like, this is a completely optional step. You can do a long ferment, so that just means leaving it in the refrigerator for 12 to 24 hours. That allows the sourdough cultures to ferment all the other ingredients in our cookies, giving them more fermentation benefits. Again, that step is completely optional. We just need to chill them for an hour in the fridge or 30 minutes in the freezer. That's essential, so I'm gonna go do it. Now, while our dough chills, you can either just hang out or you can go ahead and make your lemon frosting. That's what I'm gonna do now, so let me go show you how. Now, to get started making our lemon frosting, you'll need a medium-sized mixing bowl with 4 tablespoons of stick butter in the bowl. As you can see, mine have melted a little bit. You want them softened, but if you do have a grass-fed butter that's a little bit more hard, you can get it a little bit more melty in a pan if needed. So we have 4 tablespoons of salted stick butter in here, and then we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, as well as 1 tablespoon of lemon zest. This really adds a lot of fresh flavor. Next, we'll add in 1 cup of powdered sugar. Now, I like to do a powdered cane sugar. So this is an organic powdered cane sugar, and it's the Florida Crystals brand. I get this at Walmart. It's really inexpensive and budget friendly. So that's what I like to use for a more wholesome powdered sugar. We're just gonna add 1 cup of powdered sugar in. And finally, we'll add in 1/2 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Now, we're just gonna use our electric mixer, and we're just going to mix it on a low to medium speed until it's well combined. Now, make sure you start off on a low speed or else this is gonna fly out. And then as it gets combined, you can turn your mixer up. We wanna make sure this is completely smooth and there's no more lumps. And that's how you make a very, very simple buttercream frosting. And we're just gonna let this sit on the counter until our cookies are done baking. Now, I did wanna mention, you may see a little bit of like a weird separation type texture. That's just because we're using fresh lemon juice with the butter. So don't panic, that's exactly what it should look like. Now that our cookie dough has chilled in the freezer for about 30 minutes, we will preheat our oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, as well as line 2 sheet pans with parchment paper. Now let's get shaping these cookies. Now you'll need a rolling pin and a large cookie cutter. This is a biscuit cutter, but it works just fine. It's about 2.5 to 3 inches. So that's what I'm using today. But we're gonna want to grab some extra flour and dust our workspace. And then you'll want to grab the cookie dough. Now it might be a little bit sticky still. That's completely normal and fine. As you can see, it's sticking to my hands. That's still what we want. Now we'll grab some excess flour and put it on top. We'll move the rest over here. Now I like to just kind of knead it for a few seconds just to get a little bit of the stickiness gone. As you can see, it's not sticky anymore. Now I always like to make sure the bottom underneath where we're rolling is gonna be floured, or else we will have a sticking problem. And then we're gonna grab our rolling pin and dust that in flour. And then we're gonna roll this cookie dough out until it's about 1/2 inch thick. I always like to pick up my slab of dough and just bring a little bit more flour underneath. When you're rolling these cookies, just don't press down super hard, and then that will prevent it from sticking. As you can see, we don't have a lot of excess flour on top. That's exactly what we're looking for. And then we're gonna grab our large cookie cutter and we're just gonna start cutting them out. So they should look just like this, and then we'll place them on our sheet pans. So when you put them on here, you wanna make sure they're not touching. Then we're just gonna do that until all of these are cut out. I always like to get as much as I possibly can on one slab of dough before we have to roll it out. So just cut them close together. Now, once you can't cut any more out, we're just going to ball this back up and repeat until all of our cookie dough is used up. Again, we're re-rolling it out to about 1/2 inch, making sure there's a good amount of flour underneath. Now when you're done, your cookie sheet should look like this. If you have a large sheet pan, then you can get about 8 of them on one. This batch makes 8 cookies. Now we're gonna place our cookies in the preheated oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 12 to 14 minutes. We wanna make sure our cookies are baked all the way through, but do not over bake them. So they will be a little bit soft, but the bottom should be golden brown, and that's our sign that they're done. When these cookies are done baking, make sure you place them on a cooling rack off of the pan. That way they don't continue to bake and burn. And then you wanna make sure they're completely cooled before we start icing them. Now, once the cookies are completely cooled, they're ready to frost. So you can grab a spatula, an offset spatula like this one. You can use a butter knife, and we're just gonna add some frosting to each cookie. Now, when you're frosting your cookies, I always like to put a big dab in the middle, and then I like to add as I go, but then I just make little swishing motions. And I like to leave a little bit of cookie showing on the sides. You could frost it all the way to the edges if you chose. And then when you're done, to smooth it out, you can take the back of this and kind of just do a little swishing motion like that. And that makes them look like a cute little swirl. And we're just gonna do that for all of these until they're completely frosted. Now, when you're done frosting your cookies, it should look just like this. You might have a little bit of extra frosting left. You can pile that on top of them if you'd like, or you can save it for another use, or you can just toss it out, completely up to you. And that is how you make my sourdough frosted lemon cookies. They smell amazing. Now we have to give it a quick try. Look at that. They're so soft and that frosting is fantastic. I hope you love this recipe as much as my husband Tyler and I do. We love these cookies so much. They are delicious. They're not too sweet. I hope you find a very special and fun way to serve these. You can share them with friends, family. You can share them with your church. You could also just eat them all at home, which is what my husband and I do often. Again, you can find my full written recipe link down in the description below. Just click that link. It'll take you over my blog where you can print and save it at any time. There's also tons of storage tips and other ideas over there if you'd like to go check that out. If you'd like to make another fun cookie recipe with sourdough discard, I'll leave it here on the screen somewhere. Make sure you check out those cookies. They are so delicious and simple to make. But until next time, go serve God by loving your family one recipe at a time.